Hello and welcome everyone in another episode of Researcher Celebrity. Today we have Dr. Denver with us. A brief introduction of Dr. Denver. He has done his bachelor's in biology from University of Philippines and then master's in biology from Benguet State University, Philippines. For PhD in agricultural chemistry, he moved to South Korea and joined Chungbuk National University. And after completion of PhD, he was there for a short time for as a postdoc also. Then current affiliation of Dr. Denver is he is an associate professor at Romblon State University. With this brief introduction, I would say thank you so much, Dr. Denver, for taking time out.
Okay, thank you very much for the invitation for the interview under STEM for Society. And I hope this interview would help other career scientists on their journey to become one a beneficial member of our society.
Absolutely. That is the idea behind all these conversations. Thank you so much for kind words. We always start our conversations that how and when you decided to become a researcher.
It started when I was, of course, young. So my inclination was to join the as a teacher, but then as I grew older, it shifted to becoming a professor in the university. But then on, I found out that in order for you to become a professor, you need to be at least a master's degree and then a PhD. So therefore, I aimed at getting my PhD finished before entering the university. So during my master's degree and my PhD, I was able to engage with different kind of research that allowed me to see even deeper what are the different needs that needs to be conducted, and also to enhance my research capability in biology.
Right. Absolutely. And I think that's the teacher in you which made you drive through all the paths which took you to the master's and through the PhD. Let's start with the master's when you experienced research for the first time, as you just mentioned right
Yes.
now. So, how was that experience? And then what were the points which you considered while looking for a PhD?
During my master's degree, I went back to my hometown because my hometown is actually a center of academic area. So there are actually a lot of universities within my hometown. So I chose one of the national universities in my area, and then I enrolled for my master's degree. And during that time, my master's is more on general biology. However, I studied more on the genotoxic effects of water waste management in terms of its effect in root crops as well as animals using Allium cepa as a plant organism and mouse. And during that time, I was exposed with some of the techniques that are relevant in order for me to finish my thesis, which was submitted to the university.
Nice. So, having done that master thesis for a short time, which gives you a fair idea of how it will be for the PhD, but then the courage to travel from Philippines to Korea for your PhD, what were the key important deciding factors for you and based on your experience, now what you can suggest to the future generation that what should be their priority while seeking for a PhD position outside their home country.
Okay. So in my case, it was around 2013 when I was looking for a potential PhD position. So during that time, traveling outside the university is not as many as right now. So the opportunities right now compared to when I was looking for a PhD outside the country is actually quite limited. So, but however, during that time, I was lucky enough that one of my professor who is actually in collaboration with Korea had finished her own PhD and they were looking for potential replacement in her case. So during that time, I inquired about that and since I had a better reputation, I guess. So she was able to remember me perfectly, and then she decided to recommend me for the position as a postdoctoral, a PhD candidate for the lab in which she studied from. So basically, it's an opportunity that was given to me, and I grabbed it. And thankfully, of course, because of course of previous engagements with different professors, then I was able to be recommended. So I guess it's more on opportunity and taking or grabbing that opportunity. However, you should be ready on whatever kind of opportunity you have in order to be able to get it properly done.
Absolutely. And I think the two important points which you just mentioned is A, having that network established so that
Sure.
sometimes those opportunities can actually seek for you instead of you running behind those opportunities. And B, getting all those recommendations again will loop us to the point A that whenever you are applying for PhD abroad or within your different countries, people always seek for recommendations on your scientific aptitude, on your personal personality, everything. And having those connections with your supervisors, with your peers is so important because those recommendation letters also play a very important role in your selection. So now let's move to the South Korean part of your research. When you were a
Okay, sir.
PhD student now, how did that start and how that journey felt?
Okay, sir. So during my PhD, if I give a short background first, my undergrad is actually BS Biology and my master's degree is BS Biology, but it's a general area. However, in my PhD, my professor is actually specialized on soil microbiology. It's actually soil fertility. So the basic part of his research is actually on beneficial microorganisms. So during that time, my microbiology is actually not as strong. Uh, However, I was able to meet many scientists, particularly actually coming from India. He had a lot of Indian students also, as well as postdocs that were hired during his time. And through them, I was able to train myself or retrain myself in order to concentrate on basic as well as advanced theories in microbiology, particularly on the development of beneficial microorganisms for soil fertility. So during my stay at Chungbuk National University under Professor Tong Minsa, I was able to meet many amazing scientists. Majority of them are from India, like Tamil Nadu, as well as Calcutta, of course. And then I was able to learn a lot from these seniors, and they were able to also help me progress with my own ideas as well as topics. So if I remember correctly, I proposed three research topics during my PhD degree. So it took a lot of time, of course, to develop your own area of research interest. And during the time, of course, I was lucky also that my professor allowed me to select whatever topics that I'm highly interested in. Although he had a lot of ongoing projects, some of my seniors were able to be given their own topics. But however, in on my part, I was able to develop my own topic based on my own interest, which is of course in line with the research funds that my professor has during that time.
Absolutely. And having these things clearly established early on when you are taking up on a PhD challenge for all the audience, there are two possible ways that you will do your PhD. A, whatever the projects are going on in there and somebody is moving out, you are just going to jumping on something which is already up and running and get an easier PhD. Whereas other way, which Dr. Denver said, he came up with his own ideas, which obviously has to be in sync with the lab you joined, and then start most of the things from scratch. do a
Mhm.
lot
Yes,
of
sir.
troubleshooting, and get a wonderful training as a PhD, because most often we always say that PhD is not a degree, it's a training. It
Yes,
trains
sir.
you as a researcher, it trains you as a scientist, and it trains you as a person also. And this again is something which we say that it is not only going to change your name, but it is going to change your personality. This person, by the end of your PhD, is probably a different person when you joined as a PhD. How do you feel, Dr. Denver, about this in terms of personality apart from researcher personality of yours?
Mm. Yes, sir. Absolutely. Training or doing your PhD is actually a very life-changing activity. So more or less, doing your PhD is not just merely specializing on a special topic. It's actually a training ground for you to be able to see a lot of things. So aside from the scientific part of your PhD, you will actually learn so many things which are more important aside from the degree that you have, which is actually managing stress conditions, how to solve problems, how to look at different problems in different perspectives, and how to solve them actually. So so many problems that you will be engaging into. So how you take care of them and how you will be able to solve them is actually part of the training process in PhD. And after which if you are able to have all of these things in terms of physical stress, mental stress, and emotional stress, how you cope up with them, how you solve them during your PhD will actually be your weapon as a better person or as a better scientist when you get out of the society and do your own research.
Absolutely. And you just touched upon one of the most discussed topic in these conversations about the stress management, especially
Yes, sir.
early on during your PhD. So, what were your experiences, and then how you navigated your path through all those challenges? As you mentioned, it's not only about research challenges, it can be physical, emotional, and so many other different challenges which you face. So, what were your experiences?
During my PhD, again, I was thankful that there are, of course, I have seniors that were supportive of my activities. So whenever you're facing challenges, of course, you have to solve them. I suggest that you have to look at them by yourself first, and then if you are having difficulties, then that's a time that you ask for help from your seniors, of course, because they have the same experiences and life experiences that you have, or they are probably having the same problems that you are having. So having to communicate with them, having to share your experiences with them, and then also listening to their own wisdom, then through that you will be able to solve your own problems. I think that's one of the most important things, is to connect with them. And if some of your seniors will not be able to do that, then I think you can also consult with your principal investigator, to your advisor, of course, because his experience is more than what you have or what your seniors have. So aside from that, there are actually a lot of other communities that you can ask help from. It's always good to contact other people or other connections and build connections with them, because in the future they will also be the ones that will be helping you establish your own career aside from the difficulties that you are having in your own lab.
Absolutely. And I think this is what makes research as a teamwork, that,
Yes, sir.
and you explained it beautifully, that starting to explore all the possible solutions by yourself. And when you see that nothing is moving ahead, then it should be the next stage, going seeking help from your peers, seniors, juniors, anywhere in the group. And then even if then you are not able to solve it, then going talking to the supervisor, because mostly they might have this solution for it. In the rare cases when you are facing a problem, which no one else has faced, which is going to be again rarest of the rare. But then as a team, everyone come together and make the different solution, come up with different solutions for the same problem. And as you mentioned, one of the things which PhD trains you is giving you different perspective, that how you can approach towards the same problem. And this is also one thing which come up when you are doing the brainstorming session on a very challenging issue with different or diverse group of researchers in the same room.
Yes.
Nice. So when you were doing your PhD, having most of the things in place, what were the thoughts or the aim and ambition you had before completing your PhD?
Of course, during that time, the things that I'm looking into is that, what will be the future step after doing my PhD? So I'm looking at where are the possible areas in which I will be exploring at. So of course, doing the PhD is one basic step, but then after doing the PhD, it would be an open area. All possibilities are there. That's for you to grab. So during that time, again, I was looking into possibilities of either doing or going back to my hometown, the Philippines, or probably going abroad and continue my activities abroad. However, I was more inclined in going back to the Philippines because Philippines is actually needing a lot of experts in the area, and I think that the Filipinos should be the one helping the Filipinos improve their own conditions. So we cannot rely on other countries. We cannot always rely on superpowers to help us with our problems. So it should always begin with us also. So having all of those thoughts, of course, my main goal during that time is to try to finish my PhD as soon as possible while learning as much as possible. But however, my supervisor during that time also helped me by giving me my first job after my PhD, which is actually a postdoctoral position. I'm again very thankful to him because of that. It allowed me to have a better, let's say, better cards for me to show somewhere else, wherever I will go. At least I have an initial job as a postdoctoral fellow in his laboratory, which actually opened a lot of opportunities for me.
Absolutely. So I think 2 points which are very important you mentioned, Dr. Danver. Having this clear in your mind that what you really want to do after your PhD, that degree is a building block in your longer aim and objective for the goal. Your mission is not to get the PhD only, but you should be aware of what to do for the PhD. The young audience who are listening to this conversation should be making this point very clear, that future steps after your award of your PhD should be tentatively in your head. It should not be the case that whenever you are done and awarded with a PhD, then you start thinking that what should I do now? Having that said, Dr. Denver, you mentioned about, Filipino helping Filipino. This is one thing which, in core research, gives us that independence, that we should be self-reliant instead of seeking for every time help from all around the world and also. But we should do whatever we can do by ourselves. And then when you had to take a choice that are you going to explore your possibilities abroad or to go back to the Philippines and then do, as you mentioned, you chose to move back to Philippines. So coming back to Philippines, how easy or challenging was that journey while seeking your next move from a postdoctoral position?
Okay, sir. Actually, the research area here in the Philippines is more challenging compared to Korea. So there are a lot of adjustments that I need to do coming back to my own country. Of course, if we try to see, Korea is actually one of the more richer country in Asia. However, the Philippines is actually lacking in terms of funding. So that's one already a very big issue or a very big challenge going back to the Philippines. So in terms of opportunities as well as resources, Philippine research needs a lot of improvement in terms of their research capability. So, for example, a while ago, we have a problem with communication in the internet. That's not a problem in Korea. My problem in Korea is how to publish as high as I can. However, going back to my country, my problem is as basic as, do we have internet connection? Do we have good electric source? And those kinds of things. So it's a challenging area when you are going back to a country that is having basic problems need to be established first. So those are additional problems that we need to seek and we need to improve before we are able to go beyond the research that we want to do in our own country.
Absolutely. And I think the points raised, like infrastructure, the funding,
Yes, sir.
and the opportunities, these are important points. But one thing which cannot stop any researcher is always taking upon those challenges and changing them or converting them into an opportunity. Every challenge is coming with multiple opportunities. As much as you can grab it and make it move forward. And this is again what we all learn during our PhDs, how to seek something which nobody have seen, and that's what again makes us researchers. So when you were offered the position, what were your because now you have established, you have already made a niche for yourself in the research community. Now you have an opportunity to come back to Philippines and start your own group. What were the initial challenges which you faced on based of your experiences, and now you can share and guide the next generation researchers who are planning to come back to Philippines?
Uh, some of the challenges again is the difference. When I was in Korea, we can do many different topics. So we can do basic research and applied research. So in my case, for example, I concentrated more on basic research, solving what or how in terms of sciences. But when I went back to the Philippines, it's a big shift in terms of research because the Philippines is pushing more on applied research. So we should be creating research that should be applicable for the community or research that is more useful to the community or research that would lead to production and then to again to beneficial effects in the community. So there is a big shift on the concentration of research. So I think this one is one of the things that we should be looking at as researchers. We should be more flexible on the things that we want to do with our own research. So in order to do that, we have to be at least more ready or more open with the again with the challenges or with the issues that we have, and then how to overcome all of these issues. So I think for researchers who are abroad, who are actually Filipinos, some of them stay abroad because again the opportunities are better, facilities are better, funding are better, even the pay is better. However, in order to push the better condition of research in the Philippines, then I guess some of them are we actually have program here in the Philippines where we are inviting back researchers from abroad who has established their own research abroad and then inviting them back to train Filipino researchers to conduct their own research here in the Philippines. But in case in my part, of course, I have already been trained in Korea, which I think is a better opportunity compared to most of the PhD holders here in the Philippines. And going back and then doing the research here in the Philippines is more forward in terms of changing the setting of the research here in the Philippines.
Absolutely. And keeping this giving back to community feeling in your heart is the most important and driving. I think that is why some people move back to their country to give back to the society, to the community where they have earned everything and learned everything, whereas some have their own ways and different thoughts where they just stay there wherever they have gone. But one thing which remains true for all of us is that no matter wherever you are giving back to the society in one or the different ways. Now, having that lab established based on your own research experiences and journey which you have gone through, how that has shaped you as a mentor. So now let's flip this coin. You were being mentored up until now, till postdoctoral position. Now when you have your own group, you are mentoring the next generation of researchers. How you have you know traveled this path, and based on your experience, what you can suggest to our faculties who are either yet to join or start their own lab, or have already joined and struggling with those different multiple hats on their head.
Mm. Actually, sir, if you will look into my career path, I'm actually a beginning to mid beginning career scientist. So I'm just establishing my lab as well. So currently, right now, I was given a lab as a center actually for the center's name is ecological agroecosystems for through resilient technologies and holistic sustainability. So it's actually a lab that is centered or geared with sustainability, agricultural sustainability. So how I am going to do it is through agriculture, through protecting the soils. So however, my lab right now is starting. So I actually got a from our government. So in order for me to do that, I was able to make the proposal to build or to get the equipments that I need. It's the first step actually. So you need to establish the equipments that you have. So learning the things that needs to be learned in order to acquire all of this funding activities. So for example, how to budget your research, how to procure your materials, because it's actually challenging here in the Philippines to acquire the materials because it has to pass through bidding, and then the lowest bidder will be getting the the company with the lowest bid will be able to get the opportunity for them to give the equipments. So these are challenges that are actually I'm not sure if it is unique in the Philippines, but it's the setting in the Philippines. So these are actually a lot of challenges. So right now, if we are looking into the things that are actually
Seems like, as Dr. Denver was mentioning about the network issue, this is the time. But if you were all listening to this conversation, so having those opportunities and challenges brings up the best in you, because now with the limited resources, whatever you have, with your PhD training, you are not seasoned, but you have this confirmation of researcher. So now we have Dr. Denver back with us. Yes, Dr.
I'm
Denver.
I'm sorry for that. So
It's good.
again, the setting here in the Philippines is more challenging compared to when I was in Korea. So when I was in Korea, my problem was just to implement the project. So the my professor's problem is to get the funding. So I will
Mm-hmm.
just help him. I will just help him with the proposal. But with acquisition of the funding is actually his part. However, here in
Mm-hmm.
the Philippines, transitioning from being mentored to the one being going to mentor, it's a different
Mm-hmm.
task. So that for me now, it's my task to get the funding done and then get my own team to be able to do the problem. So it's a big shift, especially right now that I'm establishing my own lab. So for example, the first part is again to get the equipments, and then from there in order for me to run the lab, I actually need to get external funding because the funding cannot be coming from the university because the university may not have the sufficient funds.
Okay. Again, so this is what is happening. And as you are all seeing, nothing should be stopping you. Only you are the one who decides when to take a break. And see, sometimes technology forces you to take a break. That's a different part. But what we are trying to talk here in this conversation, that we all know that if you got your advanced degrees in developing countries and you have this feeling that you want to give back to your own people, go back to your own countries, everything is correct if you have your priorities sorted in your mind, because that is the most important part. If you feel wherever you are, you can give back to society, that is absolutely true. But if you feel that you have to move back to your country and then you can help your own people, that is also correct. With Dr. Denver, that is what we have seen. He knew that there will be challenges when he'll be moving back from South Korea to Philippines. Still, he took up that as challenge because of his heart, that he want to give back to his society. He want to build Philippines stronger. And as Filipino helping Filipino is the core mantra which Dr. Denver has followed. We'll say, congratulations, Dr. Denver, for getting securing your grant, and so
Yes,
that
sir.
now you can establish your lab.
Yes.
Now, the continuing conversation from, what are the things or the points you see in the applications when somebody is applying to your lab?
Uh, on my part, as of now, I'm looking into research assistance. So if I am looking into some research assistants, for example, if they are bachelor's degree and they're applying for a research assistant, I always one of the major parts of the interview process is if they are willing to upgrade themselves. So are they willing to go while working under me? Are they willing to apply to take master's degree and then progress their own activities aside from just uh, I mean starting as a bachelor's degree. So in my case, I want to look at applicants as well as members in the lab as people who want to progress with their own activities. So I always look into that, not just getting into my lab as for experience per se, but how they get experience and how they will be able to upgrade themselves. So if ever they want to leave the lab and go for better opportunities, why not? But the initiative should be coming from them.
Absolutely. Having this mentality of supportive mentorship style, which you are looking and seeking for, what do you think, and have experienced it already, that some of the mentees need a little bit more mentoring than some others? Like some are half independent, they can take care of their things, making those decisions, whereas some of them you have to start with spoon feeding and then mature them as researchers.
Yeah, so there are, of course, very diverse types of applicants. So in some cases, I give chance to applicants who actually have very little knowledge of the area, but I see that they are willing to learn or willing to be able to be trained on those areas. For example, I have hired a Bachelor of Science in Agriculture graduates, so they have minimal knowledge in microbiology compared to those Bachelor of Science in Biology who are actually majoring in microbiology. But if I see the initiative from them that they are willing to learn and progress themselves in terms of studying more and doing extra mile in learning and progressing their own craft, then I give them the chance. And then during that chance, then I will look into them if they are still uh, truly willing to go beyond what is required from the lab or wherever they will go.
Absolutely. I think that is a wonderful uh, key skill to look for, that if they are open to learn or not, because that is what defines everything. And then again, having those priorities spread, what really they want to do with those degrees, the training, like are they looking for something bigger where this training will play a crucial role, because you at core are going to help and the next generation of researchers for the world, which is what makes all of our jobs the noble job for the world, for the humankind. So now, based on these different personalities in the group, correct, as you mentioned, there is always the potential of having conflict in it, because different personalities have their all this thing. So have you experienced any of those, or based on your experience, if not here, somewhere else, what you can suggest how a new faculty should navigate these tough challenges of conflicts?
Um, Actually, when I was in Korea, I was amazed at how my professor, how my supervisor was able to manage the lab, because there are Indians, there are Bangladeshis, there are Cambodians, Tunisians, and we are in the same area, but different characteristics or different behavior. So even among the Indians, the south and the north, you can see clear clustering or clear debate between each group. So I was actually amazed at how my professor was able to handle different personalities. So I think that's one of his craft as a mentor. Aside from science, he was actually a manager. So an absolutely good manager towards people. So it's not just managing the lab, he's actually managing people, and how he was able to handle even postdocs, for example, have their own characteristics. So when I was looking at how he was managing different people, so like I hope I will also be learning, aside from the things that I can learn from him in terms of science. I will also be able to learn how he handles people, because management is actually it's a skill that you cannot just easily learn. So that's one of the skills that some people have, some people strive to have, or some people will try to learn. However, some people will be able to handle it better compared to others.
Absolutely. And you brought out a very significant point, that knowingly or unknowingly, we imbibe so many qualities from our PhD supervisor. A,
Mm.
because we have so much time which we have spent with them. B, sometimes we don't even know that we have picked this from them. Like as you mentioned about managing the people, you have seen that, and somehow your brain has already figured that out, and now you probably are also following the same rules, principles, and managing your team to like you can only up to a certain level avoid conflict, but it is impossible to not have conflict at all. But that being said, the last question for the conversation are the word of wisdom. So, based on your experience, what you can give the word of wisdom for the early researchers, either seeking for PhD positions or I have just joined their PhDs.
Okay. So I can give some pointers. I think this is based on my own experience. So first of all, I think all researchers or all students who are trying to enter the academe or the research society has to know themselves. So they have to gauge who they are. They should know their motivations and their objectives, because these things are very important that will drive them. Again, we will always face challenges. We will always face problems, and how your motivation will drive you to be able to succeed, even if you are facing so many challenges, will drive you to succeed in your own profession as a researcher, as an academician, or as an inventor. So another is, of course, to expand your own craft. So you develop your own specialization, but you should also try to expand more things. So, for example, in my case, I started with beneficial microorganisms. However, I am expanding to climate change resilience, how microbes affect climate change. And I'm also expanding to other areas such as plant pathogens. So don't
So having that, increasing your expertise and making it more interdisciplinary is what we are doing these days. When globally, doing the interdisciplinary research is the new trend.
Yes, sir. Sorry for that. So yes, you need to expand your own research area because, for example, for the different funding agencies that you see, your research area may not fit what your funding agency has. So you should be able to make a proposal that would fit them for you to be able to get the funding. So in order for you to do that, you have to have expansion of your own specialization. So it's a challenging task to always continue learning. I think that's one of the things that we need to do as a researcher. We should always update ourselves. There are so many technologies coming up right now, and if we do not update ourselves, I think we will be left behind by younger generations who are more willing to learn new crafts and new technologies related to our own research. On the other hand, I would like to also tell that we should always try to collaborate. I think collaboration is a very big factor in conducting science because no matter how great you are or no matter how experienced you are, there's a limit of doing things alone. So even myself, as a how do you call those people? Uh, in any case, you need to do collaboration in order for you to expand the horizons that you can do. Because doing things with other people will empower you to achieve
Yes,
greater things than just having to do things by yourself. I think those are the
always.
things that I can share as of this moment.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Denver. It was wonderful having this conversation with you. To all our audience, we'll say if you want to write to Dr. Denver, you can write directly to him. If you want STEM for Society to put you in touch with our researcher celebrities, we are there to help you. And finally, we'll say thank you so much, Dr. Denver, for taking time out and sharing this journey with us. And to all the audience, we'll say stay tuned for another episode of Researcher Celebrity.